think you're muted, Jay. I think
Welcome to
Jay,
Liberteers on Tap Live, and we got an exciting show tonight. How are you doing tonight, Kimmy?
doing great, Jay. Thanks so much for lining all this up. Appreciate you. Excited about having Aaron and Theo on with us tonight. It's gonna
Yeah,
be a great
we have.
show. Texas talk, right?
Oh yeah, we got a fantastic show tonight. Aaron Reitz, he had some huge endorsements this week. He's running for Texas Attorney General. Ken Paxton, one of my most favorite politicians in America. He has never let me down. It's funny because we talk about these rhinos and people that we get them into office and they kind of let us down. Ken Paxton has never let me down. He's been really a hero for Texas and also for the nation. And so really some huge shoes to fill. And his endorsement really means a lot because he's somebody who I look up to. And so, that tells me a lot about Aaron and what he's about. He's a combat veteran. He's a United States Marine Corps veteran, and just really comes with some good accolades from people that I really trust. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing him tonight and seeing what he has to offer. And I really feel like this is our guy. This is the guy for Texas. This is the guy for America, because the Texas Attorney General really has been critical for the entire nation. And we saw that during the Biden administration. Ken Paxton was, pushing back on the Biden administration more than any other attorney general in the U.S. And so I'm really thankful for that, and I look forward to getting Aaron in there too, and Ken Paxton into the Senate. So without further ado, we're gonna bring up our panel. We got Aaron here. I have the Texas one of my besties on here. Appreciate you coming in here tonight, sir. Thank you so much for supporting Aaron, and just look forward to having this conversation with you too.
Oh yeah, glad to be here.
Hey, happy to be here too, everybody.
Yeah, thanks. We appreciate you, man. You're looking good in that photo there.
That's my DOJ headshot.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Perfect.
After the week you just had, this has to kind of seem surreal to you. You got a ways to go yet, but really some key endorsements, some really like big endorsements. Ken Paxton is one of my favorite American politicians. He has never let me down. Like if he says that you are the guy, I'm telling you right now, you are the guy. And so I honestly, seriously, we get let down by so many politicians in America all the time. Like they talk a good game before they get into office. They get into office and here they are letting us down, and it's so frustrating. And so when we can get a good one in there, when we can get somebody who really, kicks some butt and is going to take names and gets an endorsement from Ken Paxton, wow. That's huge, brother. And thank you for your service too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, this week has been surreal. I was Paxton's deputy for 3 years from 2020 to 2023, and just in the trenches, man. I mean, taking hits, drawing blood, both on the enemy and the enemy on us for so many years together. And when the opportunity came up, I never knew. I mean, folks were talking about Paxton potentially running for the U.S. Senate, but he didn't really make up his mind until March of this year. And then when he decided to launch for Senate, the number one question I heard, traveling around the state, as I often did in my career, both with Paxton, Cruz, and then in DOJ, was we're happy that Paxton's moving on to the Senate. He's going to represent our state well in Washington, but who in the world can we trust to turn these keys over to? I mean, this is a really high horsepower vehicle. It can be a wild ride. It's a bumpy road. It's treacherous, and there are, obstacles and dangers all along the way. Paxton has navigated it beautifully and on behalf of our state and our nation really well for the past decade plus. And then, I jump in this race, and then I have my mentor, my champion, the guy who, like you, Jay, I mean, I've been in politics for a long time. The overwhelming majority of these people are mediocre. They let you down. They're really not that special. But Paxton is one of the very few who is absolutely solid to the core. And so to have somebody who I've always looked up to have somebody who I trained under as his deputy, to somebody who I wanted to succeed once he's moving on to the next bigger thing, say, all right, this is my guy. I want my former deputy to succeed me, Aaron Reitz, for AG. It's humbling. It's powerful. It injected a whole bunch of energy into myself personally, but also this campaign. And I think it's just really, really changed the race dynamics. We already had really, really good momentum, but with Paxton coming in and saying decisively for voters, hey, Reitz is the guy, it's a whole new ball game, man. And now we've got all the momentum, the fundraising, the grassroots support, and this endorsement, man. We're in a really good spot. We're pumped. This is the race to follow, and I'm the campaign to back for sure.
And welcome to the stage, Michelle. Michelle from Ken Paxton's office. We appreciate you coming in here tonight. Thank you so much for helping out, put this together too.
We love Michelle. Michelle and I have been through a lot of stuff together. I talk about my time with Paxton, but really Michelle was there too the whole time as a senior advisor. And she's not only a senior advisor to Attorney General Paxton, but frankly, she's been a real senior advisor to me as well over the past several years, and is just a tremendous coach and mentor and an inspiration. And she gets the grassroots like nobody else. And so I'm proud to be able to just not only know her, but work with her as I pursue succeeding Ken Paxton as AG.
And here, you got to unmute, Michelle.
Sorry.
There you go. Oh,
sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks, Aaron. You're very kind. But we have to have Aaron as our next AG, no doubt. We cannot have Chip Roy. I've been the #1 cheerleader against that. Aaron.
I haven't seen you posting about that much, Michelle. I don't know.
I did today, Aaron. I did today.
I'm teasing you.
I know. I'm very concerned about Chip Roy versus Aaron, and there are 2 other people in this race, but to be honest, they're not very exciting. So that's kind of why we haven't really talked about them. And hello, Tommy.
How are you doing?
Good. So I want to say about this race is so important. I mean, that you need to know the difference. And I know I talk about it a lot on X, but the real difference, if you want to talk about the #1 thing, is election integrity. And if you don't have safe, secure elections, you have nothing. Okay. And so the difference between Aaron and his opponent is Aaron was with me the night the general said that he wanted to file the 2020 election challenge. And he decided that he couldn't get a piece about it. And I'll tell you that the Solicitor General walked into the general's office and said, sir, as an officer of the court, I do not recommend that you file this case, and I will not be assisting you. Well, if you want to file a case before the Supreme Court, you better have some type of, permissions to do that. And we didn't have that. And so we literally, that case, the general took about half a day to pray about it, to think about it, to see if that's really what he wanted to do. And he came out of his office and he said, Michelle, I cannot get a piece about this. I need to file this suit. There's something wrong with this election, and I'm going to file this lawsuit. And you know what? Aaron came around side the general, and so did some of our other attorneys, and they said, we're going to figure out how to get this thing filed before midnight. And literally that's what they did. And that case was so important, even though we lost it based on standing. 2 justices, Thomas and Alito, said that we should be heard based on merit. And that means that they believe that what General Paxton did had merit. And if you don't know much about that case, part of the issue is that we believe that the other states did not follow their constitution in their election. And because they didn't, it harmed Texas. We did not get the president that we elected because they did not follow their constitution. And so the difference is Aaron was helping us file that lawsuit all night. And Chip Roy, his opponent, which I hope does not win, was standing there with
he ain't gonna win. He ain't gonna win. Don't worry about that. But he's just making a big fuss.
He was saying, certify the election. And he was trying to throw out 30 of his congressional colleagues for even questioning the 2020 election. That is the difference between Aaron and his opponent. Big difference.
Yeah.
Big difference. And there's a lot of great clips. Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead, Jay.
Go ahead. Well,
Well, I was going to say there's all kinds of like, man, that was that episode in November, December of 2020 when it was Attorney General Paxton, Michelle, me, and a couple others, and the whole world wanted us to cower from filing that lawsuit. They
Oh,
wanted us
yeah.
to back off.
They
It
knew.
wasn't, and there was just a couple folks out there that were like, "We got to do this. Our backs are up against the ropes. We got to start swinging right now." And it was the President Trump was intimately involved in that whole process,
Mhm.
and we filed that thing, and we were back on top. I mean, Paxton was back on top, and like usual, he planted his flag, and when everybody else was scared, after Paxton exercised courage, planted that flag, all the troops ended up rallying. We weren't
Mhm.
alone. It was like hundreds of other people rallied around this flag. Dozens of other states, hundreds of congressmen in the House and Senate rallied around this flag. Meanwhile, my main opponent, Chip Roy, many are calling Chip Soy or Flip Roy. I don't like to do name calling. I just hear these names all the time. So some people may refer to him as that. But he's in the well of the House, masked up, screaming, saying that President Trump is engaged in impeachable conduct. He was standing with Mike Pence, Liz Cheney. He was condemning everybody that challenged the lack of integrity of the 2020 election. You couldn't
Mhm.
have a more stark contrast in this race. It's
Right.
pro-Trump versus anti-Trump. It's
For sure.
pro-MAGA versus anti-MAGA. It's
Right.
pro-Paxton versus anti-Paxton. Those are the choices, and I know exactly where our Republican base is. I know where patriots are at, and they're going to rally around my flag. They're going to rally against my main opponent, Chip Soy's flag.
Right. Right. For sure. I mean, it's one of the most important elections besides Paxton versus Cornyn. So
Yeah.
obviously, I'm gonna pitch that one. But this race for Attorney General is so important.
Yeah, for sure. Like, again, this is, I'm in Georgia. For me, this is huge because of what Paxton was doing on the border and what y'all like really, I mean, he was really the line in the sand. Nobody else was doing anything. Nobody was trying to stop this. Nobody was helping out it was just complete chaos and mayhem on the border. And so y'all being a border state or whatever, like, this is huge in terms of that. And so,
That's another huge issue, man. On the border, man, so when I was Paxton's deputy for legal strategy, he used to call me his offensive coordinator. So Paxton was our head coach. I was the offensive coordinator. Our efforts to fix the 2020 election were not successful. Sadly, Biden got sworn in January 20th of 2021. And the lawsuits began on January 21st, the very day after Biden got sworn in. And our first lawsuit against the Biden administration had to do with border security. And I was able to lead under Paxton 46 lawsuits against the 46th president. Almost 20 of those lawsuits had to do with border security because the Biden administration, using every mechanism available, was trying to flood this country with an invasion of illegal aliens. It was deliberate. It was malicious. They did it with knowledge. They knew exactly what they were doing to this country. They wanted to change the composition of this country to build in a block of tens of millions of aliens who would become dependent upon government benefits and would be obligated to continue to vote Democrat in order to continue uninterrupted the flow of those left-wing social programs that they would benefit from and for which their livelihoods would depend upon. And so we sued on every single issue, whether it was a failure to build the border wall or to properly fund it, failure to deport illegal aliens, changing standards of asylum and parole, expanding the use of chain migration so that if you get a young child, if the cartels would, successfully get a child into the United States and traffic them in, that child could then become the hook to get in the cousins, the aunts, the uncles, the mothers, the fathers. And I'm putting all these things in air quotes because there's no way to verify who any of these people are. And they did it again and again and again. And something like 15 to 20 million known illegals trespass into this country. I say known because we don't actually know if it's more than that. We estimate that it's got to be. If we know that it's 15 to 20, it's got to be some orders of magnitude more than that. And so the border, Texas, with Attorney General Paxton using his lawfare weapons. And by the way, I want to say something real quick. I'm going to keep using this word lawfare. It's typically used to describe what the left is doing against the right, and that's true. But I like to use the word lawfare simply to describe the environment that we are in. We are at war. Just like when we're engaged in conflict with a foreign adversary, we say we're at war. Well, I describe the environment we're operating with our domestic adversary as one in which it's characterized by lawfare. So we are engaged in lawfare right now with the left. And the question is, who is going to defeat the enemy? And the AG, and Paxton led the way on this. Before Paxton, a state AG's office was just sort of a sleepy second tier. They used to call them AGs. They used to call them not attorneys general, but almost governors, because they would just sit there and do nothing until they could just wait to become governor. But Paxton turned it into this incredible offensive and defensive powerhouse. And now the state AG's office, especially in Texas, is one of the most vital assets that we have, not only in Texas, but around the nation. And Jay, I know you have a big national audience here. We're not just talking Texas politics right now. This is national politics that we're talking about. The state AG in Texas has the ability to shape the national course of politics and history. And I think that that's why the Trump administration understands that. It's why I had to redeploy from the Justice Department back home to Texas to ensure that whoever succeeds Paxton understands the stakes of the war that we're in right now. So border security is a huge one. And now with Trump in office, the orientation is not necessarily towards, stopping a lawless administration from flooding the country with illegals. Rather, it's partnering with this administration and allied administration to effectuate the mass deportation operations, to identify, arrest, detain, and then deport millions of illegal aliens, hundreds of thousands of which are right here in Texas, and we got to round them up and get them back home.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I can't emphasize that enough. Like how, again, I've been let down so many times by politicians. I think they're going to do well. I think they have the best intentions or whatever. And then bam, here they are letting me down just down the road. And so, like I said, Paxton has been solid. He was really a beacon of hope. He gave, he made Texas, give me hope that, they can really, save the country in a lot of respects, because it's into the millions of people just dumping over the border. You got human trafficking, you got kids being sold, like just the worst possible scenario. And, you got this guy out there, a state AG, just really, just really, holding the line in the sand, just giving us hope nationwide and stuff. And, President Trump gave us all a lot of hope, but Ken Paxton also gave us a lot of hope. And I thank Texas for electing him. And I'm so thankful for my friends out there, the conservatives or whatever, and then them also vetting you and getting you out to the forefront too, because we're gonna have to take this, right? We don't have any friends in this fight. The media is they're gonna push the ones that they want, and that ain't who we want. And we got to get you out here. And Kimmy and I do this. We kind of laid off politics for a little while. We did spaces. We met. And we did, these spaces and stuff like that. But what we've realized lately is we have to pedal to the metal. Like, we got to get back on this. We got to start promoting these candidates. We're going to have to take this. Like, we can't sit back. Like,
no, you can't. Look, this is a thing, man. You can't. There's a whole lot of great patriots out there who, just want to build their families. They want to build their business. They want to engage in their church, their community. They want to coach their little league teams or their dance teams or whatever whatever they're doing. Right. But here's the thing about the left. The left is spiritually totalitarian. All right. I don't want to get too deep on a Friday night, but they are spiritually totalitarian. And what I mean by that is their animating principle is they will not let you live. You know, a lot of conservatives, we fly that, you know, don't tread on me flag. We fly in Texas. We love the Gonzales flag. Come and take it. A lot of times conservatives tend to think, hey, I just want to be left alone. And I appreciate that spirit. However, that spirit fails to recognize that the left will not let you be. They will not let you move out to your rural community to go build a life for you and your family and people who share your values. They will come for you. They will take over your school district. They will take over your city and county government. They will take over your your police department, and they will bend the will. They will bend the levers of whatever they can get their slimy, greasy, nasty hands on, and they will bend everything to the left. And so we have to actively we have to actively repel the left. And so there's a lot of patriots out there who are just like, you know what? I have to engage. I don't have a choice anymore. These people are coming for me. They're in my kids' schools. They're in my kids' athletic teams. They're on TV pumping their propaganda all day long. They're in our sports programs. It's like you can't get away from it anymore. And so the only way to get away from the left is to defeat the left. And the Attorney General has vast powers to be able to do that. And it's why I'm excited to serve as the next AG. Number one, because I understand more than anybody else the nature of the enemy. I have seen the enemy. I've looked at him in the eye, and he is voracious. He is evil. He is hungry, and he will stop at nothing to defeat everything that we hold dear as Americans. So that's what I'm excited to get in and do, man, and start just kicking lib ass.
Well, Aaron. Well, and now that we don't have, we don't have a lefty president, the AG can go after some of these very woke companies that we've been dealing with for a long time, that do DEI and all these crazy things that are going on. And so that is, going to be the new role of the new AG. But I want to make very clear for those that don't know the history of Texas. We've only had 3 Republican attorneys general in all of the history of Texas. And can you believe who they were? The first Republican was John Cornyn. I know that surprises everyone that he's a Republican, right? So tell me, that was our first Republican attorney general in Texas. And the second one was Greg Abbott, now our governor. And the third one was Ken Paxton. And who do you think had the most conservative record of all of them? Obviously, we know that it's General Paxton. So Aaron is going to be the 4th attorney general that's Republican in the state of Texas. And that's a really big deal that a lot of people don't remember or know about Texas, that we just kind of, got a handle on Republican across the state. Now, I will say a lot of our Democrats were yellow dog, Reagan-esque type, Democrats, but they were Democrats, and Texas literally just took the reins, and now we're solid red. And I think as we close our primaries here in Texas, we're going to get stronger red. But, this race, there's so much difference between Aaron and his opponent. It's like night and day. And I will say this, the other 2 candidates, just to let you know, there are 4 candidates in this race. All of them are anti-Paxton, every single one of them. Mays Middleton is one of them. He actually funded General Paxton's opponents, gave them $300,000.
And sorry, and to be clear, Michelle, his last name is pronounced middleweight. It's not it's middleweight. Remember.
Very good. Okay, very good. So, and then Joan Huffman, Joan Huffman. Joan is she's a Republican, but she's kind of more moderate for sure in her voting record. And she also was part of the whip that was working to try to see if they could get enough votes to impeach General Paxton during the Senate impeachment hearing. But when they realized they didn't have enough votes, then obviously they didn't vote to impeach. So that is why General Paxton felt like he had to get involved in this race and he had to endorse. It's really hard for someone running for a statewide race to get involved in a bunch of down ballot races because they know they're going to upset the base, right? Some people like this person, some people like that person. But General Paxton is saying to you, look, I've held the seat and you're asking me, because the number one question that he gets asked is, who's going to replace you? We want you to go replace Cornyn, but who's going to replace you? And that's why he is very excited to say that that he wants Aaron to be his replacement.
Yeah, amen. And they're big shoes to fill, but I'm here to give it my darndest.
Yeah, well, one of my best friends on X, and he's really the reason why I stayed with X and why I do this, why I push conservative candidates, why I'm on here is Texas One. And when he said that Aaron Reitz is the real deal, I take that as gospel. He's one of my best friends on here. I know him and his wife. I know they're great American patriots, and so talk to us about that. Tommy, this is a huge undertaking for us, to go against, really the establishment. They're going to push their candidate or whatever, but we're going to get our guy in there because we have to. We really have to, and we need him. We need somebody like Aaron, and we cannot, just let this be another establishment politician just for the reasons that we just said. And we need Texas to be strong and conservative like they really are.
Yeah, I mean, Ken Paxton was really our only light of hope, I guess, the last 4 years. It was, I don't know, I was ready to bow out and just give up. I went to Washington, D.C. on January 6th. And then on Joe Biden's inauguration day, my house was raided by the FBI. And nothing ever came of it. But, they just made my life miserable for a little while. Probably because I was in Texas. I was one of the lucky ones. But you had the Democrat judges that signed off on the warrant over in Beaumont, Dade Phelan's district. Dade is my state rep. I used to be on city council here in Orange, and me and Dade worked close together on some stuff. But you could just tell that he was going. He was a rhino real quick. So me and
Tommy,
him.
just so you know, Chip Roy, which I know you know this, but Chip Roy stood against the J6ers and stood with Liz Cheney. He was completely opposed to protect. I know you know this.
Big Liz Cheney lover in my
Don't get
opponent.
me started on Chip. Chip toured the country with Thomas Massey, and shared a bunk bed with him on the road for DeSantis for 3-6 months. I don't know what it was, and then they won 0 counties. So I'm not real worried about Chip. He's there, but I don't think he has the support. He only supports Trump when he's backed into a corner and he knows everybody's watching him, and that's the only time he throws a vote Trump's way. But I got to spend some time with Raul Labrador up in Idaho a few months back, and really liked him, and really seeing how big the Attorney General's office is starting to become. People are stepping up. I think Aaron is he's Ken Paxton, but on steroids. I think
Very true.
Ken's a little quieter.
I took so much steroids, I lost all my hair. So watch out, kids, for steroids. You're going to lose your hair.
Yeah.
Oh
But
my gosh.
I'm excited, but I really got involved in the national politics, and then in the meantime, Texas was burning to the ground behind my back. And so I've really started to focus on Texas politics and everything. And Aaron, I just want you to know, I was, I wanted to endorse you, and I was going to endorse you, but I was kind of waiting to make sure that Ken Paxton's office, because I mean, that's Ken means that much to Texas. And once I knew that Ken was in, I mean, I knew you were the guy. I wasn't going to support Chip and all that, but it really, helped out knowing that General Paxton was full on board with you and everything. So I'm excited.
That means a lot to have your support.
I can't wait. I know you won't miss a beat. You're going to hit the ground running, and we won't even be able to tell a difference except the name.
The energy too, like you said. There is a difference between those
Firecracker.
two. He is a firecracker. Matter of fact, I will say that that Aaron and I at first we knocked heads at first. We had to get to know each other, but now he's the dear brother to me, and
The energy
yeah.
levels were just too high for a little while, but
That's the
they
Marine in him. He's hard pushing.
they
Aaron,
equalized, and we figured out how to make it work.
I want to ask you what the pulse was with you leaving Washington D.C. What was what
Yeah.
was it all good when you were leaving to go back to
Oh
Texas?
yeah, it was really good, and I'm glad you asked that, Tommy, because I was, for folks who don't have a lot of my background, I most recently served in the presidentially appointed, Senate confirmed role as the head of the Office of Legal Policy at DOJ. And when I got my job offer at Mar-a-Lago with the president's handshake in early December of 2024, about a month after he elected resoundingly, both by popular vote and by electoral college. And when he put out a Truth Social post for me in December 13th of 24, he said, Aaron Reitz is a true MAGA attorney and a warrior for the Constitution. Now, I think that's exactly what we need as the next Texas AG. But that was just the beginning of the process. I had to go through full Senate confirmation. I had my hearing. I had all that stuff. You can go on C-SPAN and watch it. It's a long hearing, and some of it's pretty fun and spicy. Some of it's kind of dry. But, all national Democrats had every incentive in the world to nail my scalp to the wall. And when I got confirmed, I got all Republicans yes and 0 Democrats. I was proud of that. In fact, I would have been embarrassed if I got any Democrat votes voting yes on me, because I would have thought, what did I do in the past to make any lib comfortable voting yes on me? I think that would have been a mistake. So I got party line vote and got sworn in by Attorney General Bondi in the West Wing and got my team assembled, started working, doing a whole bunch of stuff for Attorney General Bondi as the head of the Office of Legal Policy. I was the senior legal policy advisor to the Attorney General, and so she and I were very tight. I was very tight with the Deputy Attorney General of the United States. And then when Ken announced for Senate in early April, I went. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't want to get too emotional, but I'll just be honest with you. I really struggled with the thought of, okay, should I even broach the subject with Attorney General Bondi and ask for her advice about whether I should, consider a bid for Texas AG, or should I just keep my mouth shut, put my head down, and get to work? Because there's plenty of work to be done in Washington. There's no question. But I slept on it. I prayed on it for a few days, and I said, look, I'm going to regret the rest of my life not at least asking Attorney General Bondi what she thought about it. I needed her mentorship. I needed her advice. And so I shot her a text. I shot her and the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche a text message. I said, hey, you guys have some time to chat? They said, sure, come on by. I went by later on that day. And very humbly, I just said, look, I'm really struggling here, guys. I've got a big mission ahead of me. You guys have entrusted me. I'm excited about the task that we have to restore integrity to the justice system here at DOJ. But Paxton just announced, and I've just been thinking about it. What's your advice? If you say no, I'll say yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and salute and get back to my office. If you say yes, though, I need your guidance. And so I had the conversation with him, and the immediate reaction was very positive. It was, look, Aaron, and this is coming from Bondi, I was a state attorney general. I worked with Paxton. I know how important this role is. I loved being Florida's attorney general. Obviously, she loves being the United States attorney general. It's a great job. But I love that role. And if we screw this thing up, if we put in somebody who's unvetted, untested, who we don't know, if we screw this thing up, it's going to be bad, not just for Texas, but it's going to be bad for the country. And so that began in early April, all the way through my announcement date in mid-June, a period of about 2.5 months of very prayerful, careful, thoughtful due diligence about whether it made sense for me to do this. And that involved a whole bunch of things. It meant talking with my colleagues and superiors at DOJ. It meant talking with the people who had brought me into this whole thing over in the West Wing, the president's political staff. It included me talking with key grassroots people here in Texas. It included me figuring out, okay, well, where's the money going to come from? You know, you can't just announce with $0. You got to have at least some confidence that money's going to be in the bank. And so it took me 2.5 months to really feel out whether this would be okay and whether I had the blessing not only of Attorney General Bondi and the President of the United States, but also the blessing and support of all of my friends and colleagues who had come alongside me over those past several months and brought me into the administration. And by the time I announced, it was very clear to me that everybody knew that this was the right thing to do. Everybody knew that this was the calling that had been placed upon me. Everybody knew that even though it would be, you know, I'd be missed at DOJ, it'd be tough to fill, you know, we got to find somebody else to lead this division in the Justice Department. It would be even more costly to the state and to the nation if we screwed up AG. So, Aaron, you've got green lights across the board. Go ahead, baby, and run your AG race. And on the day that I announced, and folks can find all of this on my social media, but I had over a dozen positive statements of encouragement saying, hey, Aaron is going to advance the Make America Safe Again agenda right at home in Texas. He's been a champion for law and order here at DOJ. He's going to do it again in Texas. And these were statements that came from Pam Bondi, from Todd Blanche, from the FBI director, from the weaponization czar, the border czar, the head of the Civil Rights Division, and many, many other people, all of whom I served with in the senior most ranks of the Trump administration, were basically unanimous in their saying, hell yeah, brother Aaron Reitz, go and get him. You got to be the next AG. Go and run a great campaign, win this thing. And then when you do, you're going to be our closest ally as one of our critical AGs who's not only been vetted by us, somebody who we trust, somebody whose cell phone number we have, but also as somebody who presides over the largest red state law firm in the country. And getting the right Texas AG is critical for the Justice Department's mission, for DHS's mission, and for the White House's mission. So it was tough, Tommy, for me to leave such a cool post at DOJ. I mean, look, if you have a Senate confirmed job, that's like tenureship at a university. It's like, that's not something that you give up lightly. And I didn't give it up lightly. I gave it up with deadly seriousness to come and win this thing. And that's exactly what I'm fixing to do. And we have all the momentum to get it done with y'all's support.
Yeah, man, I couldn't imagine leaving Trump's administration. I just could, oh my God, if I was there, it would be so hard. I mean, it just lets everybody know how much you love Texas, and not only Texas, you know, the whole United States, and how important this job is. You know, somebody, I've heard Michelle talk about it, and Michelle can weigh in on this, but everybody's like, oh, he's just taking it so he can make money and all this. And this is probably one of the jobs that will make the least amount of money or opportunity.
Oh yeah,
because
it's bad money. It's bad money, brother.
The money that you're gonna make, and your money is put into a blind trust. Is that right, Michelle?
Well, okay, no, that's different. The blind trust situation come in like with General Paxton, because he had money from a previous law firm and stuff that he can't. Right. Attorney generals, okay, there's 2 positions in Texas that are not allowed to work any other job, and that is the governor and the attorney general. The governor, they actually get a house, and you know, they get everything. The attorney
mansion,
general,
actually.
They what?
A mansion.
They get the mansion.
Get a mansion. Yeah, they get a mansion. The attorney general, no, and they make $153,000 a year, and they have to maintain 2 homes. Okay, or well, the Paxtons did, and Aaron lives in the Austin area, so he won't have to necessarily, but the attorney general does not get any living expenses or anything. And so the blind trust comes in if you have any kind of income, like the journal. You know, the one great thing about Attorney General Paxton that they keep talking about is he's got all this property. Well, you know why? Because, and he tried to talk me into it too, he got out of the stock market, so you don't have to worry about doing insider trading with Ken Paxton, because he sold all of his share, he stole all of his stock, and he purchased a couple of houses that he uses as like rental properties. And so that's what he does to like, but he's not allowed to even bring in money with that. So he had to put it in a blind trust.
there's a phrase that Paxton taught me once that'll always stick with me. I love it. I think it describes my career trajectory, at least from a financial perspective. Is he used the phrase? He said, "Aaron, you and I keep pursuing these jobs that have us downwardly mobile, and it's like one job to the next is paying less and less and less." And I've been in. I spent a few years in private practice. Made a good amount of money that was at least good for me. I come from a middle class family. I'm still fairly young, so it's good enough money for me. But look, there's no. I won't. Let's just say this. I won't be needing any blind trusts. I'm in the arena, and I've been proud of the work that I've done, and I am fully satisfied with being able to deliver wins for the state and for the nation. We've kept a humble standard of living for my wife and my 4 kids, and so yes, it's less money, but we're ready. We're eager to get in and get to work.
And people just don't realize how big Texas is. And like, I went to school for 2 years, and if they offered me the AG of Texas job, I wouldn't take it. I'm an oil and gas.
Yeah. Just so you know, we have 4,000 employees total. We have 4,000 employees, 700 lawyers, 175 peace officers, and 4 tactical units. That's what we have. And the AG is responsible for a lot of different areas, consumer protection. Honestly, here's the big thing. Y'all just saw yesterday, they passed the bathroom bill on the floor. That's now been assigned to the AG's office. Some of these new bills, they actually gave back the Office of Attorney General election integrity day before yesterday. So all of these things are being pushed into the AG's office. We don't even have enough FTEs or full-time employees to manage some of this. So the state's got to give us more money for that. But we definitely want to make sure that whoever we have there will actually manage these projects, these new bills that just got thrown onto the Attorney General's office.
Yeah, it's a good.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Well,
what I was going to say is that what's important is, I always like to say this on the campaign trail, because you talk about the legislative process and the Texas AG's role in that legislative process. And it's important to revisit that, because Texans have not had to really select in an open slate, like an open seat selection process, since 2014. It's been over a decade since Texans have had to have sort of a paradigm shift where they're like, wait a second, by what criteria are we evaluating who's best qualified to be the Attorney General? And I always remind them of 2 things. Number 1, under Article 4, Section 22 of the Texas Constitution, it says, quote, "The Attorney General shall represent the state of Texas in all courts and pleas." What does that mean? It means it's a legal job and it is an executive branch job. It is not a legislative branch job. And a lot of activists who are probably on this call right now, and we love good legislation. We love our activists who are holding our state reps and our state senators' feet to the fire. But it is a completely different job. The AG does not pass legislation. The AG does not negotiate bills with people. The AG does not do photo op sessions with bill numbers with the governor and the chairman and the lieutenant governor. What I like to say is this: the very end of the legislative process is the beginning of the Attorney General's process. Okay, the legislature will do its work. It can pass good laws. And you know what? I'm happy when the legislature passes good laws. And I'm upset when it fails to pass good ones or it passes bad ones. But when those laws, when the ink dries on the governor's, and it gets printed in the law books, and those law books get put up on the bookshelves, those then become weapons for the Attorney General to deploy in this lawfare environment. And you need an AG who knows how to walk into this beautifully appointed armory, stock full of really badass weapons. Some can be used offensively, some defensively. Some are fully automatic belt-fed machine guns. Others are just really quiet knives that you can slip into the enemy's back. It just depends on the nature of the fight that you're in, that you need to hand select the right weapon. The legislature provides the weapons and the bullets. The AG has to provide that leadership and that generalship on the battlefield to deploy those weapons and those troops at the targets that on any given day may vary from time to time. And when the AG doesn't have the right weapons, he's got to call in air support from DHS, DOJ, FBI, Trump admin. Sometimes he's got to call up other state troops to help him. But the bottom line is, as Texans are thinking about who do we need as an AG, you're going to hear my opponents, all three of them, they're all legislators, okay? They all come, they're going to say, I passed this bill. I passed that bill. I voted yes on this. I voted no on that. And look, if you've got a good legislative record, I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you. I love a good legislative record. But they don't have a doing anything relevant to the job that they are applying for. My record is one litigating, investigating, suing, defending, and appealing on all the major issues that the folks tuning in right now care about, whether it's election integrity, border security, Second Amendment, religious liberty, free speech, big tech, suppression of conservative voices, big pharma, you name the issue. Pick an issue. I guarantee you I've touched it under Attorney General Paxton's leadership or under Senator Cruz's leadership when I was his chief, or at the Justice Department under President Trump and Attorney General Bondi. I'm the one with the record that makes me qualified for this job that I'm applying. It's my opponents that have no record. They may have voted yes or no on things. That's fine. But that ain't the job. This is a legal executive branch job, and you got to choose the right man for that job. And I think it's me.
And I'll say this, just, I know, Tommy, you want to talk? Go ahead.
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
He gets me fired up. I'm fired up.
I know. Aaron does get fired up. But I will say this, as you just have listened to him talk, and by the way, Don Hooper's right here next to me. He's a dear friend, and his wife is the general counsel for the RPT, and good friends and very smart attorneys, by the way, or very smart attorney. I will say this. When Aaron left the Attorney General's office, you asked Tommy a question, what happened when you left the DOJ? Well, I'll say that when Aaron left the Attorney General's office, I'd worked side by side with him for 3 years. We lost an incredible mind because Aaron's job was to help us like watch forward about what kind of executive orders, Biden was going to put forward and how we could look and see how he was violating the law or the Constitution. And we would go in and we'd win most of those cases because we could see, okay, he stopped funding for the border wall. Well, okay, there is a contract in place. He can't do that. So legally we went in and we won those cases because he would always do this. He would always file this executive order in violation of the Constitution, and we would always find the loophole where he was violating the law, and we'd win every single time. And that's the kind of thing that Aaron would bring to the general and say, okay, general, we got to file this one. And general would listen, and then we'd file it. And he basically gave Aaron full leeway to try to go after these suits and see which ones we needed to file. And then he would agree to them because Aaron had a brilliant mind when it came to that stuff.
Yeah, and I just wanted to welcome you to the stage too, Don Hooper. If you want to jump in there, feel free, sir. We appreciate you being here tonight.
Well, you guys are kind. I was just enjoying listening. Rachel and I are traveling, and so we, Michelle, and actually I've never done one of these before, so I've been trying to figure it out. But but I was going to ask Aaron, where you been? Where are you going to go? Are you going to be in Houston the next couple of weeks? How can we help?
Yeah, we have been we've been all over the state. I just did an 11-day tour. I'll give you a little map of kind of what's been going on in the campaign, what it's looked like on the trail. So I announced in mid-June, and I had 2 weeks left in the quarter to raise money. Now, a lot of my advisors told me, hey, Aaron, can you wait a few more weeks? If you announce after July 1, you don't have to report any of your financials for several months. So you can kind of run like a crypto campaign, not cryptocurrency, but, running a campaign where you can have a lot of flash, but not have any fuel in the tank, right? So if you can wait, then you don't have to disclose anything. But if you declare in mid-June, you're giving yourself only 2 weeks to raise money by the end of June, the end of Q2, quarter two. And I said, yeah, that's part of my strategy. I want to announce with not much time, and I want everybody to doubt me. I want everybody to say, oh, he's never been elected to anything. He's not going to be able to do it. And I'm going to say, I'm going to show him. And in 2 weeks, as a non-incumbent, non-office holder, first time statewide, no gavel, no titles, no chairmanships, no sugar, no spice, no nothing. Just a person who had just left the DOJ and was working at a private law firm. From 250 individual donors, in 2 weeks, I raised $2.15 million. Now, this is not only record setting, well, it's not only record breaking, it's record setting. No one has ever done this in modern Texas politics. No one has done it. Yes, Greg Abbott or Lieutenant Governor Patrick or somebody who's firmly ensconced in their statewide role, yeah, they can snap their fingers and raise money like that. But for somebody to come out of nowhere and raise that kind of money is historic. And the reason for that is because we are firing people up. They know there's a couple other people that declared before I did, but they're not exciting anybody. Nobody's rallying to their flag. Nobody cares about what they're doing. They are fired up about what's happening here. They love that President Trump called me a true MAGA attorney and a warrior for the Constitution. They love that I worked for Paxton. They love that I was a Marine. They love that I was an Afghanistan war veteran. They love that stuff. And not only does the grassroots support rally, but the pocketbooks open up. And so we raised a ton of money. And then starting in July and August, we've done a ton of grassroots stuff. We've been traveling all over the state. I spent a lot of time, most recently, my 11-day trip. I started in Lubbock. I was in Lubbock for a few days. Then I stopped in Dallas. Then I stopped in Tyler for a couple days. Then I went down to Waco. Then I went over to Houston. And then just late last night, I left Houston, came back to Austin. I'm in Austin for a couple of days. I'm going to take my wife out for a beautiful birthday dinner because it's her birthday coming up. I want to make sure to take a pause on the campaign trail to take care of my wonderful wife, Meredith, the mother of my 4 children. So we're going to have a birthday get together, and then I'm hitting the road again. I'm back in Houston, then I go down to the Valley, then I'm back up in Dallas, then I got to go to Amarillo, then I'm back in Austin. And so we are all over the place. And we're getting out there. We're increasing name ID. We're giving my stump speech. People are getting fired up. We're increasing name ID. I mean, we're just having the best time on the campaign trail. The best thing that you could do to help, Don asked the question, how can you help? There's 2 things that people can do that are listening in right now that they can do to help. Number 1 is they got to spread the word. They got to put the name Aaron Reitz for Texas AG into people's minds. They got to drive it home. Share it on social media, on X, on Facebook, on Instagram, True Social, whatever you're on. Tell everybody. Get on your phone and text people. Text them my website. Text them my X handle. Text them my videos or my tweets that I put out. Whatever it is that I'm sharing, you guys got to get it out there. Get my name and my background out to people so we can juice. Everybody needs to, it's still early in the campaign, but people need to know who I am. They need to know that if you support me, that you're with me. And you've got to take the time to do that. The second thing that people can do to support me is they can go to my website and contribute. And look, in Texas, we have no limits, but don't be intimidated by that. If you can only give 5, 10, 50, 100 bucks, do that. The number of donors that we get is sometimes as important as the actual dollar amount that we raise. So if you're hearing my voice right now, you can go to aaronreitz.com, AARONREITZ.com, or just search for my name. You'll get to that donate button, hit donate. And then while you're doing that, tell your friends you're donating and get them to do the same thing. That's the 2 most important things. Tell your friends and donate. That's how we're going to win this thing, by mobilizing, rallying around this flag, and pushing me, getting behind me and pushing me into that AG's office.
Absolutely. That's why Kimmy and I are doing these things. We want to promote you. We want to get the guy that we want to get in there, and we're not going to just sit back and watch some rhino or somebody who's not going to do a good job for America, for Texas, get into the office. And so that's why we're going to get Aaron Reitz in there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And
Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm fired up.
Let's go,
man.
baby.
I'm fired up.
Yeah, for sure. It's Texas is just, it's a different place. It's a state that we all look to, to do the right thing, to, values. It's really, and so, this is a huge, huge thing, that you're undertaking, and we appreciate you doing that. We thank you for your service, in the Marine Corps, but also we thank you for doing this because, you're doing the right thing and you didn't really have to.
Well, I appreciate that. And you know what's interesting? When I got, I gave a speech when I got sworn in at DOJ. I had I had a little captive audience, so I gave a little 5-minute speech or whatever. And my speech, which it always the thrust of the speech has always sort of resonated deeply with me, and it's this: the oath that I swore when I first became a Marine officer. I was 22 years old. I raised my right hand. My wife and my grandfather pinned my little butter bars on as a brand new second lieutenant. I raised my right hand. And I swore the oath that every officer in the armed services has to swear. I, Aaron Reitz, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's the first clause of that oath. And what's interesting is when I got sworn in at the Justice Department, something like 15 or 17 years later, it's the same exact oath. Word for word, the same oath. You take a solemn oath to support and defend the Constitution against the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Now, the difference is that when I was in the middle of the war on terror, and most of our perceived enemies at the time, and we could talk about foreign policy if you guys want to, but maybe that's for another show. The enemy was perceived to be abroad, right? So that first part, all enemies, foreign, right? You support and defend against all the foreign enemies. But look, there are enemies here domestically. And I don't necessarily mean the ones that are going to put on a uniform and try to kill you, although many of them do. Let's be clear. Okay, there are enemies that do want to kill us. But there are enemies in our midst. They hate this country. They hate our way of life. They hate the Christian religion. They hate the American founding. They hate our history. They hate conservatives. They hate families. They hate God's creation. They hate beauty, truth, and goodness. These people are our enemies. And so when I get sworn in as the next Texas Attorney General in January of 2027, I've been to Attorney General Paxton swearing in. I know what his oath says. And my oath will be exactly the same as it was when I was a lieutenant. It will be the same as it was when I was at DOJ, and it will be the same in January 2027 in the Senate chamber when I'm raising my right hand with my family and the governor swearing me in. And it's I, Aaron Reitz, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The only difference is that instead of wearing a uniform and a gun, I'll be wearing a suit and a tie with a law book. But the mission is the same. And we've got enemies out there, and you need an AG who's been battle tested, who knows what it's like to be in combat with the enemies of liberty, and has shown results time and time again. And that's exactly what I bring to the table. It's why Attorney General Paxton endorsed me, and it's why I think we're going to win this race together.
Well, I appreciate you so much for coming in here tonight, Aaron. I know you're, a busy man, and again, with all your endorsements this week and stuff, I was really surprised that we actually got you in here tonight. To be honest with you, you had some huge ones this week. You were on, some big. You were on OAN, right? And Bannon's WarRoom.
Did some Bannon, some WarRoom with the WarRoom posse.
Yeah, that's exactly what we need. It's really. In my sales, seeing you out there, seeing you get the support that you need, and just really gives me a lot of hope in terms of I really think you will be the Attorney General of Texas. So with that, with that being said, where can people find you? Where can they donate? If you're not already following Aaron, you should be following Aaron. Help him get his word out there. Help him get the message out there. But where can people find you, Aaron?
Yeah, best way, easiest way is as soon as we're done here, just give me a follow on X. My handle is at Aaron_Reitz, AARON_REITZ. And then if you just search my name for whatever your preferred social media platform is, we're very active on Facebook, Truth Social, Instagram, all those things. And then the best way to donate is go to my website. It's aaronreitz.com, AARONREITZ.com. And if you just search for my name and whatever your preferred search engine is, just search for Aaron Reitz. Go to my website. There's a big red button that says donate on there. Contribute whatever you can. Every dollar helps.
Yeah, absolutely. At a minimum, follow him on X, follow him on Facebook, follow him on all these platforms. Help him get his message out there. It really costs nothing to, get in this fight, to help, push the, good message that Aaron has, and to get him out there, right? Get him on the forefront, right? It costs nothing. So we have a lot of power, and the things that we do on here, they have value. And so I appreciate, all the warriors, all the patriots out there liking, sharing, subscribing, help him get his message out there, because we need him in that office.
Excellent. Well, thanks for having me, Jay, Kimmy, everybody, Tommy, good to see you. Don, Michelle, I see Theodis is on the line now. I've got to bounce, but thank you guys, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the campaign trail and earning your continued support and confidence.
Thank you so much for coming tonight, Aaron. We appreciate you. You're a great American patriot.
You bet.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
I'd also like to thank everybody that's in the comments. Thank you so much, y'all, for reposting the stream. We appreciate it very much. Next up, we have Theodis Daniel for Congress District 18 in Texas. If you have any questions, please post your comments in the comment section below so we can get those questions to him. Just thank y'all for being here and your continued support with us every single week. So just thank you. And welcome. So should we call you Theo or Theodis?
Either way. Either way.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Oh, yeah.
So welcome. We're so happy to have you with us tonight, Theo. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I was out there with boots on the ground at some apartments where they misappropriated a bunch of federal funds, $146 million. They built an apartment complex on top of a incinerated ash that causes cancer. So I was out there boots on the ground today taking videos and stuff.
And talk about the position you're running for, and what inspired you to run.
Well, I'm running for the special election, Congressional District 18. It was the former seat of Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee and Congressman Turner, who was the former mayor of Houston. Well, I'm running for 18 because, we need a body in there right now that's going to actually do something. Not there, just to do things because they're feeling or doing stuff for their constituents, but thinking about and getting results for what's in the best interest of the voters. The 18th district voters and the residents that's within 18th district have been highly neglected and been sold the lemon for a long time. I think people are tired of it. And I just so happen to be one of them. My son's cancer came from the environment. I haven't been a happy dude since. And so I said, well, the only way that we can do it is to change things and not complain to each other, because, that only creates high blood pressure. And then and you'll end up in the hospital after a while. And I said, well, I'll just jump in and do something. So my son was like, Didi, I want you to go help everybody out and save them like you saved me. And I said, all right, I got you. So I jumped in, and it's got to have some more people that's coming into races and things of that nature. That's grassroots. That's more like that other people can relate to. Not career politicians with no term limit. I mean, I have a term limit for myself. I can't speak for the other ones, but yeah, I have a clear term limit that I set for myself, and that's it.
Thank you so much, Theo. And just want you to know that there was so many people out there praying for your little guy, DJ. He's just an awesome young man, and we are just so thankful for you and for him, and he's just amazing. So I'm not sure how he's doing. Hopefully a little better. I haven't really seen any updates on that, but we are praying for you. Just wanted to say that for you and your family. So I wanted to ask you a couple questions, if you don't mind.
Sure, let it rip.
Yeah, of course. Can you share more about your military service and how it has shaped your decision to run for Congress?
Well, I went in the military in August 21st of 1997, and I went to Great Lakes, and then I was actually giving orders to the Independence, the USS Indy. And then we got recalled, and they sent us to the Kitty Hawk. So I was complaining the whole time, but we ended up going to Bremerton. I got in the USS Kitty Hawk, CV-63, and went to December 32nd, and did a lot of stuff. I was a machinist, mate, fireman while I was in there too. But I mean, from the time that I joined, it wasn't really that hard for me to adjust because my dad was in the military for 28 years. So I basically grew up in a house like a boot camp almost. And I mean, it taught me how to, you know, keep myself under cool, under pressure. I like working under pressure actually, and not making excuses and get things done. And so, I mean, it definitely molded me into um, to where even with my son, that's how I'm able to deal with my son so well. It is a lot to handle, but it doesn't slow us down, and we never have any days off, and so we just get it done.
Thank you so much, Theo. Again, if the audience has any questions for Theo, please post them in the comments so we can get those answers to you. So you've had many hardships in your life. It sounds like you had your mother. She experienced a lot of violence. The loss of your mother. I'm so very sorry. To violence, and your son DJ's battle with cancer. How have these experiences influenced your policy priorities?
Well, they
I know that's a tough question.
yeah, that's a tough question, but it's not that hard. Well, I mean, my mother being murdered when I was 12 years old, that was a tough one considering her murder case is still a cold case. So we have to call every year to keep the case open, stuff like that. And my dad having to go overseas to go pick her body up and bring her back. It took almost a month to bring her back, and he handled it. And then he ended up raising four kids by himself. And then DeVarge getting cancer from the environment during Hurricane Harvey because we were in the water in Channelview. Um, that really broke me down. And all the while I was going through PTSD and adjustment disorder when I got the military, and I dealt with that for 15 to 16 years. And that was about the tail end of it. And I think God broke me, and He just said, "That's enough is enough." And that's what I went through with him. Not to mention my 15-year-old. He was 7 when he got shot out here in Houston. So we've been through a lot of different things, but we didn't let it stop us. We just kind of took that and learned from it, and we just pushed forward and made things happen. Like DeVarge having 5 months to live, that was probably the worst thing that I could ever think about, due to some bunch of people that were doing for their greed and not worrying about the people's needs. And so it just pretty much just keeps me in the fire, and I don't back down from anything. Matter of fact, I like challenges. So if you back me into a corner, I like it. I like my fish wet and slippery. So we just handle business. But yeah, it definitely it's one of my priorities is safety. We can't never be cheap on safety, and everybody here should be afforded to be safe. And I'm like the right huckleberry for the position to even come up with different legislations to protect people, because I don't want anybody else to experience what I had to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. And Texas, we were just talking about, Texas Attorney General, and Texas being a, kind of a beacon of hope. Texas politics, has kind of taken a turn, and so us, it's become critical that we really push truly conservative candidates out there, people that are going to look out for the best interests of Texas and the nation, because so many of us see it as a beacon. And so I appreciate people with family values, Christian, conservative, people that are really going to do the right thing. I appreciate y'all stepping up to the plate and getting out there. what was, beyond these things or whatever, what really inspires you? What motivates you to kind of, get out there for Texas to try and, take the reins and make sure that, things are going the right direction for y'all and for us too.
Well, considering everything that I've witnessed and gone through and dealt with and seen people suffer and taking losses and everything else, I mean, when you have, a lot of things such as a house and everything that you work for, it get washed away, and you come back and your house is not there, and there's a slab of silt and debris on top of it. You kind of tend to put your priorities in the right place. My priorities wasn't it was always in the right place, but I always thought, having these items was like, was my priority. Kind of like, let me get this stuff, let me make this, do this, and get that for my kids and stuff. But that's not what it was about. I think Hurricane Harvey, when it came through, it taught us, a lot of us, because it didn't pick one group of folks. When Hurricane Harvey hit it hit everybody from every economic class, and we don't think about no materialistic things. And like I say, it's definitely a lot to think about. I got a lot going through my head because I got a lot. You ask me questions, I got to dig back up from a long time ago. So I do get a
That's
little emotional
okay.
over
We're
it
just
because
happy to have you here.
yeah, most definitely. Well, it was definitely a lot to deal with. I'll tell you what. So, but you can ask me another question if you like.
Sure, sure. In your campaign, you've proposed stronger partnerships with faith groups. Speaking of faith, we
Yes.
were just talking about that, and nonprofits for youth programs to prevent crime.
Yes.
Can you provide examples of how you've seen initiatives work in Houston or Harris County, or how, or what your plans are for that? Because those are just such important topics and issues that need to be resolved and taken care of.
Well, being this is a social media type of age, and a lot of parents are not at home, and a lot of single parents, and so they're not able to be at home. So it's like the internet, if not the street, is raising their children. So if we can get like some kind of what is called like a mentoring groups that can come out and get the little girls and little boys and come out and check on them and have youth programs going on in neighborhoods. Which when we were growing along, they had a lot of them, but they're not there like they used to be. They used to be out in the streets trying to recruit kids to come do things. And if we can do that, I think we can get a lot of kids under control to where we can guide them to being law-abiding citizens. But right now, the kids are all over the place. There's nobody, like I said, there's nobody home raising them. I'm fully hands-on with my kids, so I don't have those issues. My kids are very respectful. Yes sir, no ma'am. Hold the door open for you. Um, and like Devarja, he won't shake a woman's hand. He says, no, I don't shake women's hands. I only give hugs. Okay. He says, because if I shake your hand, I'm gonna have to squeeze and I don't want to hurt your hand. But like I said, we just need a lot more programs out there to try to help these kids out. Um, and it's working here in Houston. I'm a part of a mentoring group called Young Kings, so we go out there and just find kids that's at risk, and we get them under our wing and show them like there's better ways to do things, and give them guidance into whatever that they'd like to do. So if they wanted like to do let's say they wanted to work on cars, then well, I know how to work on cars, so I'll pick up the kids and I'll take them over there and we'll get my tools out, and I'll find them a car that they want potentially, and we'll build the motor and put it back in there, and so they can actually have something tangible that they can look at and say, hey, look, I put my time in this and I worked it out, and I'm proud of something. But a lot of these kids are being forced to be taught, and they don't have a chance to be kids, so they tend to take out the frustration on each other. They're fighting each other, they're committing violence on each other. I mean, they're doing bullying on the internet and things of that nature. So like I said, if we can get some programs in place to try to help the kids out, I think it'd be something awesome.
Yeah, our children are our future, right? Our children are our future. And I love your idea about having after school trade school programs, because you're so right. There are so many. I remember when I was younger, and even my youngest son, who's 23, He even had some classes that they offered at his high school that he took, like how to work on, I don't know what the class was called, auto shop, I guess. He just took it for fun. So now he's like, he's 23 and he goes out. I see him out there like, you know, underneath his hood is like his whole body's underneath his hood, if there's a problem with the truck he just got. And so he knows how to, he knows how to do all the stuff on his own. So I completely agree with you on that. I think trade school is so important, especially when kids are in middle school and high school. I think that they need to learn just the basic necessities of how to be a man and how to function, for your family, and take care of your vehicles, just take care of, basic needs like changing the oil and just things like that. So I am all for trade, middle school, high school, and after high school as well.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a wonderful, wonderful idea.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
so
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
something you're. Oh,
Well,
go ahead.
when I was growing up, and even in middle school, they had us doing home ec. So I didn't even want to take it, but when they started making those cinnamon roll honey bun type of biscuits up in there, it was like the best thing since sliced bread. So I wanted home ec, and we even took sewing classes. I mean, you name it, we were just trying to do everything. Then it came with the wood shop. Everybody went to wood shop and built those little reindeers for Christmas and candy canes and stuff. And it worked out fine. And I was always motivated and eager to go to school because I was wanting to go to that, go to my classes, that had those trades. And then they had the mechanic class, and I'd have to go on another little. They put us in a little yellow bus, and they take us to another school and campus, and then we do mechanics over there. And they had all kind of other trade schools. But right now they don't teach kids that. So I mean, they can't change a tire. They don't know how to do. They don't really know how to do anything, but they can work an iPhone better than I can. Because I tell you what, the thing is frustrating sometimes. But my 10-year-old, my 11-year-old can work it better than I think probably anybody on this phone.
Very true. Very true. They're better at video games and changing tires and changing oil, right? It seems
Oh yeah.
the era that they're growing up in right now, and it's just so important. I think the hands-on that we teach the youth, at a very young age. I know Jada's doing that with his son. He's got 2 boys he's raising on his own, doing a fantastic job as a single father. And from what I've heard, he tells him, you need to do it yourself. I'm not going to bail you out this time, right, Jay?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, you made an interesting point. They can work an iPhone better than you can, right? But what does that tell you? They're not stupid.
No.
But
No.
they need some guidance. They need some mentorship, and they need people to the right direction, and they can go right. They're
Yep.
they're a lot of these kids out there are bright, and they can do all these different things, and they can work the technology or whatever, but that's because their minds are working, right? They're sharp. They just need a little bit of guidance. They need the right mentorship. They need people to point them in the right direction. They need their parents to be involved in their community too, right? Because some people don't have they come from a divorced household or whatever, but the community can kind of step in. You got coaches, you got teachers, you got all these different things that can kind of point these kids in the right direction. And you talked about after school programs, that's huge. That could help. That could be the difference between somebody ending up in prison or somebody being completely successful and helping their kids out. It expands. It's a force multiplier when you turn somebody's life around and you point them in the right direction, because they're going to do the same thing for somebody else.
Exactly. Yep. You're right. You're totally right. I totally agree. Yep.
Exactly, Jay. Um, I was going to mention something. What was it? I forgot. Let me see here. Oh, I can't remember. It was something about the youth. Oh, yes. My oldest son actually was very much into video gaming when he was, 13 and all that. I let him do it as long as he made his own computer, his gaming computer and all that. But now he's a very successful IT person, working in a big hospital, and he has a whole department. He's doing really well in life because he's smart. He's smart. He actually gets bored really easily. He needs those challenges. So sometimes the video games aren't so bad as long as they're doing the other important things in their lives as well. So Theo, what are your like? I would say, let's say maybe priorities if you were elected to Congress. What are the three things that matter to you most?
Well, I'd have to say top priority is public safety. Public safety includes law enforcement too. They need to get taken care of a little bit better. Um, and then we need to talk about Social Security and help for that. And then we need to talk about school shootings as well. We definitely gotta talk about school security. They haven't done that either. Those are those some of my top three. I mean, there's other ones too, wasteful spending and some other things. Like I said, I was dealing with earlier before I got on the show here. Um, but yeah, they've been shortcutting on the law enforcement funds, and now we're short of staff. I mean, we don't have that many officers out there anymore. When I was coming along, we used to sit there and play cops and robbers, or we wanted to be a firefighter, and the girls want to be nurses and police officers and stuff. Now we don't really hear that anymore. And now, well, I mean, I talk to a lot of kids. A lot of kids would rather be influencers, um, do all kind of videos, or they just want to be rappers, or they just want to cause problems. I mean, that's about it. So it's definitely a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about the school security, school safety, and stuff like that. That's something that it is important to me. And President Trump just stopped 5 billion in foreign aid going to other countries, and it had zero benefit to the United States of America, right? Zero benefit. The 0.6 for climate, 24.6 million for climate resilience in Honduras, 3.9 million to promote democracy among LGBT in Western Balkans, 2.7 million to a South African organization that produced articles like The Problem with White People, right? Just think about, what that could do, $5 billion, right? What that could do in terms of like providing security, hardening our schools and stuff like that, so that parents could feel confident that when they're sending their kids to school or whatever, like they don't have to worry about these things. You see it on the media, you see it sensationalized or whatever, but like parents are really concerned about their kids, and the thing is like we're not spending money in the right things. We could harden these schools. We could hire more police officers. We could make whatever bigger fences, increase the security on the access points in schools and stuff like that, to give parents peace of mind that they're when they send their kids to school each day, that they're going to be safe. And for a lot of kids, school is the safest place they go every day. They don't live in these safe environments and stuff like that. And so all of our kids should feel safe. And seeing this money just blown overseas, it infuriates me, right? It's just like Americans should be furious about that. And so this $5 billion, that could it could do a lot for schools. It could be, I think we have like 115,000 schools in America or whatever, but like $5 billion would go a long ways in providing security and providing safety for our kids who deserve it. And that's our money, and that should be going to benefit us and our providing for our security. We don't need climate resilience in Honduras. That's our damn money. We don't need that going there. And that's why it's so critical that we push people with common sense, people who can people who can see through the BS really into Congress. And so that's why we want to push conservatives on here.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. We need to look. My daddy used to always tell me. He said, boy, I tell you what, you need to take care of your feet. And I was like, what do you mean take care of my feet? He said, because if your feet ain't right, you ain't right. In other words, we need to take care of our feet, which is our selves here. We need to take care of us first. If we can't take care of us, how are we going to help everybody else? We're always trying to extend our branch to everybody else, but then yet at the same time, we've got all these homeless veterans out here. You got crime out of control, people killing all kind of people left and right. You got the judges letting all the murderers out of jail, won't prosecute them. It's just so much going on. And then, like I said, back to the school deal. we just had another little shooting. What is it, yesterday or the day before? One of those, and it shouldn't have never happened. I mean, we already had previous instances of that happening. So why are they dragging their feet on trying to beef up the security? I mean, there's no accountability there. We know, for God's sakes, you know, and I mean, the perpetrator, committed suicide and all, but even if they wouldn't have, they would have just said he was insane and go live in a asylum, insane asylum or something like that. But I mean, there's no measures there. Where are the metal detectors? Where, I mean, they've got more security guards that are armed out there than police officers. What, why are they wasting all this money when there's nobody to protect the schools? Or you have, like here in Houston, HISD, you have one officer for every 6 schools. How is he going to be able to, he or she going to be able to go to one school, and if something happens, now they got to sit there and shoot to the other school, that's probably 20 or 30 minutes from there. That's impossible. I mean, there's no measure. I mean, they're all open. I mean, schools are all open. I take my kids to school every day, and it's like, I try not to be too far from them, just in case something end up jumping off. But what happened is that a lot of us veterans, we got together, so we'll end up rotating, and we'll just drive around the school all day, and then we'll just switch off, and we'll just make sure that one of us is around somewhere, just in case we see something funny and things of that nature. So if something does jump off, one of us, we'll end up going to go tackling whatever we got to do, because the kids ought to be focused on learning, not worrying about somebody's gonna come up there and do something stupid at the school. So I mean, they had a lot of metal detectors prior to President Trump coming in there at the Capitol. I actually was trying to get some of those metal detectors old Miss Pelosi put in there, and I don't know what happened to that, but yeah, we could have used a few of those at these schools.
Exactly. And this is where it comes to the Department of Education. I'm not sure what the status is on that, of dismantling it. Have any of you heard on that, or trying to restructure it, or has that been a priority with the administration? I don't
Well, I
even
mean,
know.
they're essentially defunding it at the federal level, and trying to empower the states is what they're trying to do, which is the right thing to do, because each state is different. Each just like each student is different, and so empowering it at the state level, they can see different areas have different problems, right? The problems that they have in New York City are not the problems that they have in Iowa, right? So that's why it should be at the state level. That's why keeping the power at the federal level is a failure, because they're going to push out things that really aren't going to help at the state. That's why they need to empower these things. And so that's what President Trump is trying to do. That's what Linda McMahon is trying to do in terms of, the Department of Education. But, the security thing is another issue entirely. And so that's something that, I want to see from Congress. I want to see, our not only our state, but our federal reps, pushing for, because that's in my mind, that is money well spent. Sending money to Honduras for climate resilience is not money well spent. It doesn't benefit me in any way. It doesn't benefit anybody. And it's really just going into the inferno. They're just going to spend it on something that doesn't actually do anything to promote climate resilience, which we don't even care about. So like protecting our kids, teaching our kids, I care about. And so, and most Americans would echo that sentiment.
Oh yeah. Well, you definitely right. Most of us that have common sense. Most of us that got common sense.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of that out there anymore, Theo. I don't know. I'm
No,
hoping that at least 50% of us have common sense. My gosh, let's pray for that, right?
You're right. You're definitely right. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was just reading one of the comments. The schools spend more money on pride flags instead of hall monitors.
Yep,
And that
you're
is
right.
very true. Very
Yep.
true. Their money is just never, seems like it's always misappropriated in the wrong way. I mean, I was talking to my son yesterday, and he was talking about, he loves to read. He loves to read an actual book. Like, he doesn't get the audio books or anything. And he just got the Count of Monte Cristo, and it's like, I don't know, I think 2,000 pages or something. And he's saying, Mom, do you realize how many kids wouldn't even be able to read this now? There's so many kids that cannot read. And it's just really sad. I mean, that has to change. I mean, we're paying our property taxes towards the schools, taxes towards the school systems, and what are they doing? I mean, exactly. I mean, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Just,
Well, down here in Houston, they the school district down here took out most of the libraries and they made it into like a holding facility kind of type deal for kids that misbehave. And so that's where they're putting them. And so all the books are there, but the kids can't check them out. They can't do anything. So they wouldn't know anything about the catalog deal, when you look through it and find your book or nothing like that. And you're right. These kids don't know how to read a book. They don't know how to read the regular clock. They sure can't, they can't do cursive. Um, and all the hall monitors are gone. Like the superintendent out here, they got rid of half the staff. So even the person at the counter, the receptionist, she has to leave at a certain time. They all the teacher when they get out of school, they all have to stand around. They have to clock at exactly at 5 o'clock, so they all stand in line and sign in the binder. And I'm thinking to myself, well, y'all are so understaffed, and especially, I guess we can go on and have this conversation. It needs to be had, but the sped children are being left behind. And I know because I deal with that. They don't have enough aides per student for each teacher. They're supposed to have X amount of students per teacher's aide. And like the one class that one of my kids go to, she's overwhelmed, and so she ended up retiring. She couldn't take it anymore, so she left. And now they have these younger teachers in there, and they're trying to be real friendly with the kids, and they're not teaching them anything. So I mean, there's a lot of things with the schools that we need to fix. They need to make it more interesting to want to make these children want to go to school. These kids don't even want to go to school because they're pushing them so hard. And for God's sakes, let's say you remember when we were in school, we had PE every day almost every day we had to go to PE. Well, these kids can't go to PE. So if he like my oldest one, he had PE last year, he can't take PE this year. They won't let him do it. So it's a lot of things that need to be fixed. I mean, it's more than just security, but security is one of the main things because a safe school is a successful school for the kids, and they can focus on their education.
Yeah, they need to channel that energy. Like you said, my kids. I think in high school, they had PE for like 1 or 2 semesters for their entire high school. Like I think I had it the whole year when I was in high school. I had it in middle school. I had it in elementary. Like we did PE. Kids need that. They need to exercise. It's not just about their minds. Like their bodies have to be healthy, too. And they need to release that energy and stuff, and really that's good for their mental well-being too. It's just because they got their face in their phones, they're just and they're looking for that dopamine hit, right, when they're doing when they get a post or whatever or something on their social media or whatever. Like they're addicted to that, and we need to get them out of that. We need to get them active. We need to promote these things. If they're not getting it at home, they should be getting a little bit at school at least, because we know what's right. Educators, coaches, mentors, school psychologists, they know it's right. They know these kids need this stuff. And so why aren't we doing that? Why the Department of Education is really failing us in a lot of respects in that, on that.
Well, yeah, yep, you're right. You're right. And I mean, it would help to have the parents really active in these kids' lives and with their school stuff too. But like I said, they're so busy, they're not there. And so, that parents' involvement is very important. I'm always on my kids' stuff. I don't even play around. They got to show me report cards and things of that nature. But some of that stuff, I look at it like, what's this? I don't remember this being in the sixth grade. I don't know what this is. So my 14-year-old jump in there. He's like, okay, well, this is what we do. I was like, wow, man, they push y'all harder than when we were in school. I said, so technically, I said, I'm gonna be honest with you. I said, your kids today are way smarter than us. I mean, you're way further advanced than us. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. And they have all the skills. They have more skills. I mean, like I said, I go back to the school deal with the trades deal. They can start teaching these kids how to be interested in AI because AI is going to take over everybody. I mean, if they don't think so, they're sleeping. So they should already start getting these kids kind of like brushed up on it and try to see how many of them they can get in for. Because that's going to be a new job right there.
You're correct. And unfortunately, I'm sure in a lot of families, there can't be a lot of parental involvement. I'm sure, and that's sad because that is one of the most important things is to have your, one or at least one parent or mentor or you know big sister, big brother, or something like that. The programs, to be involved in the child's life, but unfortunately, that's just not happening everywhere. It's just sad. Um, no, I'm getting all sad.
Yeah.
um, oh no, that's okay. So I wanted to go just to another question, kind of switch over to President Trump and America First policies. How would you work with the administration on national issues like border security, for example, um, economic reform, while focusing on local needs in Houston as well?
Okay, so which one you want me to hit first?
Whatever you'd like, hon.
Okay, with President Trump and the border situation, I mean, a lot of people, they're up in arms about, you know, the way that ICE is running around and doing what they're doing. But you know, um, I put it this way: my mother's Korean, and my mother, even though my dad had high rank in the Air Force, he did 28 years there. When he got married to my mother, my dad said he had to wait over a year and a half, close to 2 years, to get her from Korea here. And so my mom, she was patient and she waited. My dad was being patient and eager, and finally she got to make it. But guess what? Um, yeah, it sucked. I mean, you had to wait, go through the process. But these folks that's coming on, they jump in the line. You're skipping the line. So it's like, well, they have a three brisket limit over there at the Kroger's grocery store over here, and then there's only two briskets left. And we've been standing in line for 2 hours, and we're like the last two there, and then all of a sudden somebody walks up and just cuts us and take the two briskets. I think you and I be probably a little upset about it. So that's pretty much how I'm trying to compare the whole deal with the border security. But we do need stronger borders. We need, and anybody that jumps in and feel like they're above the laws and rules. Well, guess what? Since you skipped the line, you got to go to the back of the line. Go through the porter entry. Do it the right way. I know it's a little bit inconvenient, but guess what? Everybody's in the line, but it's more inconvenient when you cut people and then you come over and start causing problems. And one I got to tell you about is when we were at the joint session there, and we were invited by President Trump and First Lady Miss Melania. I got to meet Lincoln Riley's family, and I've got pictures with him, and Jocelyn Nungray's mother, Alexis, and Alexis's father, and listen to their stories and things of that nature. It just broke my heart that some folks came over here, jumped the line, and then decided to you know do the most horrific thing to well, one was a little girl and a woman. So I mean, we where do we stop at? When do we say it's enough is enough? How many more of us got to sit there and endure and hear the stories of people coming over, killing, raping, and pillaging everything, trying to take all the resources, food stamps, and all that other stuff. So yeah, I'll be right behind them all the way on it, and be humane as possible to get it done. It may not be comfortable, but I mean, we got to get it together. We have to get it together because open borders is a dangerous thing because you don't know who you're letting in here. You just don't know, and we've got our other issues. We don't need no more coming here and compelling things.
Yeah, absolutely. Lincoln Riley, that thing happened here in Georgia, and it really hit home for me. I got two kids. My youngest is a senior, but he goes to college. My oldest is a full-time college student. And half of my neighborhood, their kids go to that school. And so, for me, it really hit home. And the thing was, the craziest part for me is they kicked him out of New York City, right? He was too crazy for New York City. In Athens, Georgia, accepted him because they're a sanctuary city in red Georgia. Why is this stuff still happening? Why why can't we just, have a little bit of common sense? Why do we have sanctuary cities? That shouldn't even happen in America. There's absolutely no reason. Sanctuary for what? Sanctuary for crime? They're committing a crime by being here. And so they start with a crime, and then, they're not all afterwards, but a lot of them do. And so, why do they even have the opportunity to commit these crimes? They should have been gone in the first place. They should have never had the opportunity to commit another crime on top of their already crimes. So, for me, it's just, it makes no sense because they were completely preventable. That didn't have to happen. If they're kicking him out of New York City, then why in the hell is Georgia taking him? If you were talking about New York City, the bluest of the blue, right? And now Georgia's going to take. Why in the hell is this happening? He should have been on a train home, on a plane home, whatever the case may be. They shouldn't have been here, and that should have never happened. And she should be a nurse out in Georgia now. And now we're talking about it here. It's ridiculous. And for our politicians to pretend like they couldn't do something about it, they absolutely could. They could have pushed for these people to be gone. They could be supporting President Trump on his efforts. They could be supporting Tom Homan. Governors could be doing more. Congressmen could be doing more. And so that's what I have an appetite for. That's what I want to see out of my congressman. That's what I want to see, because even though you're in Texas or whatever, but Congress is federal level and it impacts all of us. And so, that's what I want to see out of congressmen is pushing, for stronger border security to get these people out of here. That is the most humane thing that we could be doing for them, right? It's inhumane to keep them here, to keep them on welfare, stealing, basically it's stealing money. And then, to have to deport them and stuff. And then you see all these, whatever, it should have never happened in the first place. We should have had stronger border security. It was a complete mistake by the Biden administration.
Yeah, it definitely got out of control. I mean, they have a little facility right around the corner where I'm at here, and it doesn't have any signs on it. It's got high fences, and come to find out, it's nothing but migrant children in there. I didn't know that until I saw a big fat water leak, and I called to have it fixed in the middle of the road. And that's how I got that information out. But even Houston itself, whether they want to admit it or not, but I mean, they're a sanctuary city. Whether they want to admit it or not, they might not want me to say that, but it's the truth. I know it is. Um, but I mean, there's a lot of things that could be fixed with the situation with the immigrants. But when you have people bucking, the process and allowing, you know, ICE to come through and deal with the deportation of the violent criminals. Let's get the violent ones out of here. So the people that's not violent and that can actually be something that's going to be good for us and everyone else here, and be a law-abiding citizen and want to raise their families and put in for the cause and stuff like that. We can get to that once we get the bad people out of here, because I mean, obviously, if the other countries didn't want them and they just shoved their people over here to come over, because we're just going to take them. But you know what? I have to say, now it's funny because the Democratic side, they're always squealing about border this, that, or whatever, complaining. I said, but you know what? But one of the most famous Democrats that was a great orator was Barbara Jordan. And Barbara Jordan said herself that immigration is not a right, it is a privilege to whom that we want to allow in here. So even she agreed with that. So I don't know where in the hell these other ones, these modern day Democrats that's not a part of the Democrats from back in 10 years ago, how do they go along with it? Because Barbara Jordan she said it herself. She said it herself. And I agree with that. It's not a privilege. It's a right. I mean, it's not a right. It's a privilege. And and that's whoever that we decide to allow in here. But we don't want bad people coming over. We want people who's going to be productive and try to help us be great, help us build and be safe and be productive. But we're not able to do that because we're distracted with everything else. And like I said, I would definitely help President Trump with that any way, which shape, form. I mean, you can ask me. I don't care. Hell, I'll even get out there myself if you want me to. Just let me go put my snake boots on and we can get it.
I know, right? You see so many private citizens now that are actually going out, and I think they've hired like 100,000, I believe, private citizens to work that have, volunteered to work for ICE. I'm sure they're getting paid, but that's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
darn awesome. I love that.
Oh yeah.
I was going to mention something that Gavin Newsom. I'm in California, Theo. It's just horrible. But something
Mm.
he said, I think it was today or yesterday in a press conference, he said, having ICE out there, trying to patrol these illegal aliens is going to, I don't know where he went, but is going to hurt them when it comes time to voting. Like, oh my God, I cannot believe he said that. So he's saying ICE is going to prevent. I don't know if we lost Theo or not, but did you hear that, Jay, about Newscomb?
No, yeah, I've been busy with work, but yeah, it's that is really the elephant in the room. Democrats are worried that that they're going to lose their voting base or whatever with these deportations and stuff, and so it's just really it's just really frustrating for people trying to do the right thing. People voting, living in their communities and stuff like that. Just trying to just live the American dream, and seeing these people just living in hotels, getting EBT cards, getting cell phones and stuff like that on our back, right? That's
Yep.
our money. That is our money, and that should be going. If you told me that there was an old lady or whatever that she was you know couldn't work or whatever, and just was like whatever, like older or whatever, and disabled and stuff like that. You told me that we were helping her with her bills and helping her get groceries. I have no issue with that, right? That is what this is for. But when you tell me that somebody came over here illegally, they weren't even supposed to be in this country, and we're putting them up in a hotel and we're paying for their food every day, and they're complaining about our food, that is not what this money is for. And so that's not the people that we're supposed to be helping out, right? We have these social nets to help people that are in need, and we're a country that has compassion and stuff like that. But we're not giving it out to the entire world. The entire world doesn't have a right to our money, and we need to make sure that we're taking care of our people, American, regardless of their skin color, regardless of their religion they are. If they're American, we're going to take care of them. And so that's the way I feel. And even when we're talking about like school lunches and stuff like that, when during the pandemic, President Trump authorized school lunches for kids or whatever, and I'm for that, right? Because some of these kids don't have a healthy meal, right? Their parents can't afford it. That, like I said, they live in a bad environment or whatever the case may be. And I have no issue with us paying for school lunches for our kids. I do have an issue for climate resilience in Honduras. And so if our kids, if a couple of rich kids get a free meal or get a school lunch on our back, so be it. But you know what, the poor kid that needed that food or whatever, if they get it or whatever, then I'm all for that. That's money well spent on my end. And I don't care if we're doing stuff like that. But when I see these people living in hotels, see them getting meal tickets every day and then complaining about the food that they were getting, you shouldn't even be getting that in the first place. And so I have an issue with that.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you what, during Hurricane Harvey, when they were labeling us as refugees, we had MREs. I didn't like to eat it, but I had to eat it. We didn't get no slim pickings of Chick-fil-A or none of that stuff. It's just what didn't exist. So it's MREs, granola bars, and fruit cups. And to this day, I don't want to see neither one. I don't want to see none of them. I promise you. That's probably the last meal I'll ever have is that meal, because that was something serious. But I mean, they get everything handed to them. Let me give you a story. So I just got this and posting a video on my website there. I mean on my Instagram. And so what happens? I took the kids to Denny's. I don't know if you know what Denny's is, but it's a little restaurant you can go to and get good breakfast and all kind of other meals, right? So I want to take the kids over and get a grand slam. You get 2 eggs, 2 bacon, sausage, a little orange juice on the side. Best things in sliced bread. I tell you what. And I was looking for the hostess, and there was this old elderly lady. I knew she was in her 80s, and she was way shorter than me. And I said, ma'am, are you the hostess? And she said, yes, I am. I said, really? And I was like, you're working? I said, what you doing in here? She says, well, I tell you what, baby, when I get my medicine and when I pay my medicine, I don't have enough money in my pocketbook to pay my bills, so I have to come work. Well, I was so mad and triggered at that time, I almost would break down and crying. I just wanted to just start getting on some folks like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with us? Where did we drop the ball now? For that split second, all these thoughts was going through my mind. And I said, but this is what I got to look forward to when I get to 87 years old. I know God said that he'll give you 70, but she's blessed with 17 more years. And she could barely walk. You can see that her hip was replaced and she was just trying to make it. And I said, where did we fail? We failed somewhere to have an 87-year-old grandmother, a great grandmother, sitting over there working at Denny's, trying to make sure that she can pay her bills. So we'd rather help a whole bunch of immigrants out. And then we've got elders like herself that's paved the way and that's suffered and paid taxes and everything else, and not, they can't live their golden years out and the best way that they should. That really disgusts me. I don't understand how we take care of other folks instead of taking care of our own. You got homeless veterans out there, but they'd rather sit there and put these immigrants in there and give them this big amount of food stamps and well, they were getting food stamps and cash, you go try to get you some food stamps, you probably get about $10. You're lucky to even get $6. And the food stamps and the housing in Section 8 was meant for working class folks, not people who's gonna sit on their rear end for 30 years and their mama's daughter's great grandmas, all of them was on food stamps and housing paying $25 worth of rent, and some of them getting evicted with that anyway, you know. So yeah, I don't understand the concept. I don't know who even I mean what who even came up with that. That's what I want to know. That was the stupidest idea to do. And I was even a homeless veteran after Hurricane Harvey. At least I can admit that I was a homeless veteran. I was under the HUD VASH program, and they put me inside of an apartment and moved me to a house to try to get my stuff together. And it was hard. It was rough coming from nothing. I was on there. I was on food stamps. All that stuff I'm off of. I'm not on it anymore because I wasn't gonna stay on there. I just needed to get a pushback from there and get back on my feet. And once I got up on my feet, then I just want to, now I'm off of it, and I'm pretty much pretty much self-sufficient. Pretty much self-sufficient now, so we're good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what they're meant for, to help people, in their time of need. That's really it. They help them get back on their feet and get them moving forward. So Theo, where can we find out about your campaign? Where can people get more information about what you got going on? Where can they learn more about you? You got a website up?
Oh yeah, of course. It's Team Daniel for Congress.com. So it's Team Daniel and the whole word for FOR Congress.com. And they can go on there and go on the link. There's donation links, of course. Any donation. Look, I am happy if anybody would like to donate $1. I'm good with that. That's $1 more than what we got. And I mean, I know a lot of people don't have it, and I would definitely put everything to use. Everything's transparent. If you want to see my receipts, you can see it. I have nothing to hide. We're very open and very, very transparent. And because this is going to be a little bit of uphill battle, but I don't think it's going to be that bad. And I'm looking forward for this run. I'm just waiting for me to get that microphone so I can go in and give it to them. Can knock some common sense into these Democrats on their one side. And I hate to be like that, but I mean, I'm still butthurt about what they did at the joint session. I'll never get over it because from what you saw at home was not exactly what I witnessed. What I witnessed and felt in there, I have never been disrespected like that in my life. And that is not why I joined the military and rolled the dice on me either coming home or getting injured to come home. And I'm a disabled vet, So it just really, really hurt my feelings to see the leaders that people voted in sit there and do something like that, disrespecting the president and making all this ruckus and noise getting thrown out. I've never seen nothing like that in my life, and it really bothered me. I was really triggered by it. And I'm still hurt to today, and that's why I'm so adamant about running. I don't care if I get position taking care of earthworms. I mean, it's better than nothing. I'll take it. As long as I can make a change somewhere, and I will be a thorn in the side until I can't be a thorn no more. I mean, it is what it is. Somebody got to speak up. You got obviously they didn't have the spine to stand up there, but people with common folks, we stand up for what's right, put our differences aside to come to a common cause and get things done, so that we can move people forward and make them make a change that's going to benefit everybody. You know, I don't just sit there and help one group of folks. I look out for everyone because we live in this world together. God said, "Love thy neighbor." He didn't say, "Love your neighbor next door." We live in this world together, so we need to figure it out. Some of us ain't gonna get it right, so we call them the can't get rights, and there's gonna be plenty of those. But most of us are common sense that we are gonna get right, and we'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just appreciate you coming in here tonight. And we appreciate you, telling us your message. We appreciate you putting in the work to try and make things right. That it's not an easy road. We know it's an uphill battle, especially in Houston. It's we just appreciate you guys getting out there. That's what Kimmy and I, like I said, we originally met when we started doing spaces for President Trump all last year, and we did a ton of them, and we kind of laid off political stuff for a little bit, and then we went right back to it because we realized that it's just not going to fall into our lap. We got to go out there and take it. We got to get the people in there that we want in there, because the media is not going to help us. The establishment is not going to help us. The swamp is going to try and bury us. And so this thing is not going to fall into our lap. And so when we platform, we get conservatives up here, we recognize that, this is what we have to do to make it happen. And if we can turn a few people on to y'all, we can see, we got 16,000 people watching right now. We got 60,000 people. So if we can turn a few people on to your campaign, we can get your name out there. We're going to absolutely do that, because this is, this is our labor of love, and we recognize what's at stake, and we're not out of the weeds. And so we need more conservatives. We need people like you to run for these districts. I don't care where it is. I don't care if you're in the middle of New York City. We need to be fighting for every single seat, and we need to, preserve our future and for our kids. And so I just appreciate you doing this. I appreciate, your message. I've become a fan because, I first learned of y'all because of your son and stuff. And I saw, what he was doing, and it's hard not to love him. And it's, America feels that way. And so I appreciate you, continuing on, recognizing that there's a need for a conservative congressman in District 18 in Texas, and we appreciate you stepping up to the plate. Thank you, sir.
Oh yeah. Well, I tell you what, if you Google DJ Daniel and put 200,000 next to it, we just raised $205,000, and helped raise it and donated it to one cancer foundation. We didn't take any money. We didn't get a quarter out the deal, because they helped us when DJ was stuck inside of the rehab facility, and I couldn't leave, so I was getting ready to get evicted. I just got this house from Hurricane Harvey, and I was just about to lose it. And the social worker came in there and asked me what's going on, and I said, "Well, I can't pay my rent right now because I have to sit here with my son and figure this out." And she says, "Well, I'll be back." So she showed up the next morning with this white envelope, and I saw in the front, Heroes for Children, and I tore the envelope off the end. It was a check in it for $3,500, and I looked at her and said, "I don't need a handout." I said, "I'll figure it out." She said, "No, what you gonna do, Miss Dan? You're gonna take this check whether you like it or not." I said, "Well, okay, ma'am, I want no problems." So I took the check, and I had some change left over, and I was trying to give her the change. She said, "No, sir, you keep that, and you do whatever you need to take care of your kids with that. That's why we gave it to you." And so we gave back. We helped give back $200,000. That's going to help other families out. I mean, you tell me what other person that's running for Congress, or one person that I don't even have $200,000 myself, but anybody else would have took that money or took a part of it and thought about themselves. But it's not a me thing; it's a we thing. And we're just grateful for everybody giving us prayers and thinking about us and things of that nature, because I believe that that's what's really kept my son here, because he had 5 months to live. And I ain't lying. You see these bags under my eyes, boy, I tell you what, I don't go to sleep, and my brain goes constantly trying to figure out how can I make things better for a situation we're in and everyone else. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot. And like I say, I'm more than honored, willing, and able and capable of running and getting this position and being in it and making great change. And I just need the opportunity to do so. So, hopefully everybody get out there and register to vote and come vote. And, if you don't vote for me, vote for somebody that's going to make the change. So again, they can come to Team Daniel for Congress. To even just, like I say, check out the website and you can donate there.
Team Daniel for Congress, Theo Daniel, Texas Congressional District 18. We appreciate you coming on here tonight. We appreciate you running for this office, and we appreciate everything that you've done, giving back to others. So thank you so much, sir, for coming tonight.
Thank you. Anytime.
All right. Appreciate you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, we had a great show tonight. We talked to Aaron Reitz. We talked to Theo Daniels for Congress, Texas Night. Really great show. Really great American patriots. Just doing the things that the tough things that we need them to do. And so I appreciate them coming in here tonight. I appreciate everybody supporting tonight, everybody reposting this live, everybody watching, everybody commenting. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate you here at Live Tears on Tap on Live. Appreciate you coming tonight.